Today, this is Eleanor again to talk about my orbit code, which I thought would be the hardest thing to figure out in this entire project. But once I actually talked to my physics teacher and she explained that the orbits are basically like big circles from a distance, that kind of let me know how I needed to think about the problem, and it turned out to be not so bad after all. What I did was I thought, okay, I drew a picture. If the sun is right here at XYZ 0, 0, 0, and then all the planets are on the same Y plane because they aren't going to be going like above or below the sun, then I can think of their starting position as the XYZ vector where X is 0, and then Y is 0, and Z is just their distance from the planet to the sun, and I'll call that R, like a radius. And then as the planet moves around the sun in a circle, its position at any given moment I can find by taking the planet and its distance from the sun, the R, and then the angle between the planet and the sun, and saying, okay, using trig, drawing this triangle, the x-coordinate is going to be the radius times the cosine of the angle between the planet and the sun. And then since the y isn't changing, it's just going to be 0. And the z is going to be the radius times the sine of the angle between the planet and the sun. And then, depending on what the angle is, it's just going to keep on being those functions as it goes around and around and around. So then once I knew that, all I had to do was put that into code. So I said, okay, let's make an object called planet that I can change to be whatever planet, and then a variable called the radius, which I can change to be whatever the distance between that planet and the sun is, and a variable called a, which is just going to be my angle, a variable called speed, which is going to be the planet's velocity, and then a vector called planet move, which I'm going to define as that planet's position using the other variables. And then I pulled in a Boolean from another script called fly, which is just going to let me turn the orbits on and off to pause and then restart the planets if I want to look at them without having them running away from me. So then using those in the update, I said, okay, first of all, I only want this to be happening when that move Boolean from the script fly is true, because that would mean that I've clicked the button on the controller that makes the orbits go. So if that's true, then that vector planet move is going to be defined by the vector here that I talked about, where the x-coordinate is the radius times the cosine of the angle, the y-coordinate 0, and then the z-coordinate is the radius times the sine of the angle. So that was the vector. And then I said, okay, the planet's position, that planet that I defined up here, is going to be set to that vector that I just told you what it is. And then the angle is always going to be increasing by the planet's velocity. So just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's moving around in a circle like so. And then I was like, this is kind of too easy. I don't know if it's going to work, but I put it in and turned out it worked, which was pretty cool and quite satisfying. So yeah.